Hey, it's Jessica Lorian, and real quick, I'm going to tell you the most important element to motherhood, why you need it, and how it can completely change your journey in and through motherhood. You're listening to the Mamas in Training podcast, the podcast that gives aspiring and expecting mamas guidance and community from moms who have been there. Now, this summer, I'll be sharing with you quick Mamas in Training tips. These will be short episodes of information that I've learned over the past 2.5 years that are super easy to digest and remember in order to help you prepare for motherhood. Now, don't worry, you'll still be hearing from expert mamas who've been there, but you can also look forward to these quick training tips. So first, I want to tell you a story. Now, if this happens to be your first episode, you might not know, but I'm actually not yet a mom because of an autoimmune disease. Medication that I was on prevented me from becoming a mom whenever I chose. So I made it my mission, while I weaned myself off of the medication and healed myself, to learn everything I possibly could about motherhood so that I could learn with you, and together we can be as prepared as possible. If you want to hear the full story of my experience and journey and why I have this podcast about motherhood when I'm not even a mom, then after this quick tip, go back to episode 94 and you can hear my full story. But here is another side story I want to tell you to really shine a spotlight on the importance of this most important element. So back in 2011 was when I was diagnosed with my autoimmune disease, psoriatic arthritis. And in 2012, I started to develop something else in and around my ankles and my feet. And they were spots that looked different from my psoriasis. They felt different from my psoriasis. And they almost hurt differently than my psoriasis hurt. So I went to my doctor and I said, I have these spots in and around my ankles and my feet. They look different. They feel different. Can you please do a biopsy? And my doctor said, no, those are psoriasis. I'm pretty positive. I said, well, that's great, but can you please do a biopsy? And he said, well, I'm 99% sure that they're psoriasis. And I said, I understand that, but please do a biopsy just to be sure. Now, I literally had to go back and forth with this doctor about 3 or 4 times and demand that I get a biopsy. Well, sure enough, he did the biopsy, and guess what? It wasn't psoriasis. And thank goodness he did do the biopsy, because when I turned around and talked to my rheumatologist about what had happened, he said, well, thank goodness we now know it's called vasculitis, and if this hadn't gotten treated, it could have affected other organs significantly. So my reason in telling you that is there's something that is so essential to every moment in our life, but especially in and through motherhood, and that is advocacy. You have to have the strength and the courage and the ruthless determination to advocate for yourself. And, oftentimes when we do become mothers, I see that we have no problem advocating for our children, but why is it so hard for us to advocate for ourselves and our journey? Especially if you are someone who is in the midst of a fertility challenge. You are the one who's been living with your body for 20, 30, 40 years. You know it best. So if you know that something's not right, or if you're pregnant and you know that something is not right, or something feels different, you must advocate for yourself. Advocacy can start during conception. It continues into pregnancy, with things like, are you going to stay with your gynecologist, or are you going to get another doctor? How do you plan to envision your birth and your labor? Who do you want there? Do you want skin to skin after you give birth? Do you want to wear your own clothes while you labor? Do you want to have the freedom and the movement to not have an IV put in? All of these things are choices that you have, but you need to practice advocating for these choices. In addition, going into your birth, preparing and knowing what a C-section is, so that if you have to have one, would you like to have a gentle C-section? Keep in mind too that having someone like a doula during your labor and your birth, as well as postpartum, can be a major supporter in advocating for you and your decisions. Advocacy then continues when we're physically giving birth, the ways that we push, whether we want an induction, what kind of support we want or don't want. All of these things are advocating for ourselves. And then, of course, postpartum. Who is invited to visit you? What kind of energy do you want to allow into your home and into your space? Are some personalities just not welcomed? Advocate for that. In addition, with today's world, do you want to require certain vaccinations, wearing of a mask? All of these things are moments that we need to make decisions based off of what we and our partner desire and what's best for us, and then continue to advocate for our choices. And oftentimes we don't need to give reasons for our choices and for the reasons that we're advocating for ourselves, but we must have the strength to advocate for yourselves. Your training tip of the day is advocate for yourself in any and every situation. Make sure that you've done the homework to know what you desire. Make sure you've had the conversations with your partner to know what works best for the two of you. But at the end of the day, you know what's best. It's your baby, it's your body, and if you constantly remind yourself to advocate for what you want, it's going to make your entire journey in and through motherhood that much better. So I encourage you today, how can you advocate for yourself today, in whichever stage of motherhood you are in? Practice it today. One little baby step, and slowly but surely, you'll be a rock star advocator.
If you enjoyed the show today, new episodes release every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And help us grow our mama community by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. That way I know how to better serve you. And finally, I would love to connect on Instagram. You can find me at Mamas in Training Pod. That's MAMAS in Training POD. For Mamas in Training, I'm Jessica Lorian. We're in this together.